If he shows these 5 signs early in the relationship, run! The most dangerous signs never look dangerous in the beginning. That is exactly why they work. No one walks into a relationship expecting to be hurt. You walk in feeling chosen, seen, maybe even a little surprised by how fast everything seems to fall into place. And that is where it starts. Not in pain, not in conflict, but in something that feels almost too good to question. If you are waiting for something obvious, something that clearly tells you to leave, you are already late. Because the real signs do not shout, they whisper. They show up when everything still feels perfect. When you are still telling yourself that maybe this is different, maybe this time it is real. And without realizing it, you start ignoring small discomforts, small inconsistencies, small moments where something does not feel right, but you push it aside because everything else feels so strong. Think about this for a second. Have you ever felt confused in the beginning of something that looked right on the surface? That subtle feeling that something is off, but you cannot explain why. You do not have proof. You just feel it. And instead of trusting that feeling, you try to understand him, justify him, give it more time. That is how it begins. Not with certainty, but with doubt about your own perception. And the problem is not that you do not see it. The problem is that what you see does not match what you feel, and you choose to believe what looks good instead of what feels true. That silent conflict inside you is not random. It is the first signal. And if you ignore it now, it does not disappear. It grows. Toxic relationships do not begin with pain. They begin with something that feels right enough to ignore what feels wrong. That is the trap. You are not dealing with something clearly bad. You are dealing with something almost right. And that almost is what keeps you there. He says the right things most of the time. He shows interest, attention, even effort. But then there are moments that do not match. A comment that feels slightly off. A reaction that makes you pause. A shift in behavior you cannot fully understand. And instead of questioning the pattern, you isolate the moment. You tell yourself it was just a bad day, just a misunderstanding, just something small. But it is not about the moment. It is about the pattern hiding behind it. Because when something is healthy, it is consistent. You do not feel the need to analyze every word, every reaction, every silence. You do not feel like you are trying to solve a puzzle. There is clarity. There is emotional stability. There is peace. When something is not right, it does the opposite. It pulls you into analysis, into doubt, into constant emotional adjustment. And the more you try to understand it, the more invested you become. That is why people stay. Not because they do not see anything wrong, but because what they see is not strong enough to justify leaving, yet strong enough to keep them unsettled. And this is where most people get stuck, waiting for something obvious, something undeniable. But by the time it becomes obvious, you are already emotionally involved. The problem is not the mistake. It is the pattern you keep excusing. You did notice. You just did not trust what you noticed. Because he does not show you who he is all at once. No one like that does. He reveals himself in fragments, in small moments that are easy to dismiss if you are not paying attention. And in the beginning, you are not looking for problems. You are looking for connection. That is why it passes unnoticed. He shows you something that feels right, and right after that, something that feels slightly off. Not enough to confront. Not enough to walk away. Just enough to create confusion. And confusion is powerful because it keeps you thinking instead of acting. You go back and forth in your head. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I am being too sensitive. Maybe he did not mean it that way. And while you're trying to make sense of it, he continues to reveal himself in pieces, a little more each time. This is how you get pulled in, not by certainty, but by contradiction. One part of him pulls you closer, the other part makes you question. And without realizing it, You start focusing more on understanding him than listening to yourself. That is the shift. The moment where your attention moves away from your own perception and locks onto his behavior. And once that happens, you are no longer observing the relationship clearly. You are trying to figure it out. And that is exactly when the real signs start to matter. It starts in a way that feels almost impossible to question. He moves fast, not in a careless way, but in a way that feels intentional. Like he already knows what he wants, like he already chose you. The conversations go deep too quickly. The connection feels intense, almost rare. And instead of slowing down, you get pulled into it. At first, it feels good. You feel seen, understood, maybe even special. He gives attention in a way that makes you drop your guard. And because everything feels so aligned, you do not stop to ask why it is happening so fast. You just follow it. But intensity is not the same as connection. Intensity creates emotion. Connection builds over time. And when someone accelerates the emotional pace, they are not giving you space to observe, to question, to think clearly. You are reacting, not choosing. This is where control hides. Not in obvious actions, but in the rhythm. He sets the speed. He creates the urgency. And when everything is moving fast, you do not have time to notice the inconsistencies, the small signs that would feel different if things were slower. You start adapting to his pace without realizing it, responding quickly, feeling deeply, getting attached before you even understand who he really is. And by the time you think about slowing down, you are already involved. When everything happens too fast, it is not a sign of certainty. It is a strategy that removes your ability to see clearly. The confusion does not arrive all at once. It builds quietly. At the beginning, everything still seems fine. He says the right things, shows interest, keeps the connection alive. But then, in small moments, something does not match. His words and his actions start to move in slightly different directions. Not enough to confront, just enough to make you pause. You notice it, but you cannot fully explain it. One day he is consistent, present, engaged. The next, he feels distant, almost like a different person. When you try to understand, he gives you an answer that sounds reasonable, but does not fully settle what you felt. And this is where the shift begins. You stop trusting your own perception and start relying on his explanations. You replay conversations in your mind, trying to find where you misunderstood. You question your reaction instead of his behavior. This is not obvious manipulation. It is subtle, almost invisible, because nothing he says is clearly wrong. But the effect it has on you is real. You feel less certain, less grounded, more dependent on his version of reality. And the more confused you feel, the more you try to fix it. You pay more attention, you become more careful, you try to say the right things, so the connection goes back to how it was in the beginning. But that clarity you were chasing was never stable. It was part of the pattern. You do not realize you are being pulled out of your center. You just feel like something is off, and somehow you believe that you are the one who needs to adjust. At some point, without a clear moment marking the change, you start feeling like you need to earn something that was given freely in the beginning. His attention is no longer constant. His interest feels selective. And instead of stepping back, you lean in. You try to understand what changed, what you might have done, what you can do to bring it back to how it was. You start paying closer attention to his reactions, choosing your words more carefully, adjusting your behavior in ways you did not before. This is where the dynamic shifts. You are no longer just connecting, you are performing. He does not ask you to prove yourself directly. He does not need to. The inconsistency creates that need on its own. One moment he gives you validation, the next, he pulls it away. And in that space, you start trying to get it back. You begin to associate your value with his response. When he is warm, you feel secure. When he is distant, you feel uncertain. And without realizing it, you start working for his attention instead of simply receiving it. This is not attraction. This is conditioning. Because when someone creates emotional scarcity, your focus narrows. You stop evaluating the relationship as a whole and start focusing on moments of reward. Small signs of approval become enough to keep you invested. And that is how you get attached to something that does not fully choose you. You are not being chosen. You are being kept engaged. It does not start with him telling you to cut people off. It starts with small comments that seem harmless. He questions your friends in a subtle way. Not directly attacking, just pointing things out. He makes observations that plant doubt. Little remarks about how someone does not really support you, how someone might not have good intentions, how certain environments are not good for you anymore. At first, it sounds like care, like he is protecting you. And because you trust him, you listen. You start seeing things through his perspective. You pay more attention to what he said, replaying situations, wondering if you missed something before. And slowly, without realizing it, your perception of others begins to shift. You're not being forced to leave anyone. You are choosing to distance yourself. That is what makes it so effective. You cancel plans more easily. You stop sharing certain things. You feel like it is better to avoid situations that might create tension with him. And over time, your world becomes smaller. Not because he demanded it, but because you adapted to keep the peace. This is how isolation works when it is hidden. It does not look like control. It looks like alignment. Like you are prioritizing the relationship, but what is really happening is that your external references are disappearing. The people who could give you clarity, perspective, support, and without them, your reality becomes more dependent on him. He does not need to pull you away from others. He just needs you to believe that staying closer to him is the safest choice. At some point, you stop recognizing yourself in the way you act, think, and feel around him. It is not something you notice all at once. It happens gradually. You become more careful, more alert, more focused on avoiding tension than being yourself. You think before you speak in a way you never did before. You filter your reactions, your opinions, even your emotions. Things that used to feel natural now feel like decisions. You adjust your tone. You adjust your timing. You adjust who you are, depending on how he might respond. And the most dangerous part is that you start believing this version of you is necessary, that this is what it takes to make it work. You tell yourself you are growing, being more understanding, more patient, but deep down, something feels off. Because growth does not make you feel smaller. It does not make you lose your spontaneity, your confidence, your sense of ease. You start missing parts of yourself, but you cannot fully explain what changed. You just know that you are not as light as you used to be, not as certain, not as free. And this is where everything connects. The intensity pulled you in. The confusion made you doubt yourself. The need to prove yourself kept you invested. The isolation removed your references. Now, the result is visible. The biggest sign is not what he does. It is who you become when you are with him. And if being with someone slowly disconnects you from yourself, that is not love. That is loss happening in real time. Look at everything you just heard, not as separate moments, but as a sequence that leads somewhere. It starts with intensity that feels like certainty. Then comes the confusion that makes you question yourself instead of him. After that, you begin to seek his approval, trying to bring back what you felt in the beginning. Slowly, you distance yourself from the people who could give you clarity. And without noticing, you are no longer the same person inside that connection. This is not random, this is a pattern. And if you recognized yourself in more than one of these moments, this is where you need to stop minimizing it, because patterns do not fix themselves with time. they deepen. Most people wait for something undeniable, something that justifies leaving without doubt. But by the time it becomes undeniable, you are already attached, already invested, already trying to hold on to something that has been changing you from the start. So the real question is not whether he is good or bad. The real question is what this dynamic is doing to you. If it is creating confusion where there should be clarity, effort where there should be reciprocity, and distance from yourself where there should be connection, then the answer is already there. And the longer you stay trying to understand it, the harder it becomes to walk away. You do not need a dramatic ending to justify leaving something that already feels wrong. That is where most people get stuck, waiting for a moment that proves, without any doubt, that they should walk away. Something big enough to silence the internal conflict. But clarity does not come from a single moment. It comes from patterns you have been feeling all along. You are not confused by accident. You are not overthinking for no reason. You are not imagining that something felt off. Your perception was working. You just kept overriding it. And the longer you stay, the more you disconnect from that inner signal. The more you adapt, the more you tolerate, the more you try to make sense of something that was already showing you what it is. Leaving is not about proving that he is wrong. It is about recognizing what is happening to you. Because when something is right, it does not cost you your sense of self. It does not make you question your worth. It does not require you to shrink in order to keep it. You do not need more time to see it clearly. You need honesty to accept what you already feel. And sometimes, running is not an overreaction. It is self-respect. There is a moment, quiet but decisive, where everything becomes clear. Not because he changed, but because you stopped trying to reinterpret what you already know. You realize that the beginning was not a promise. It was a preview, not of who he could become, but of how he operates. The intensity, the confusion, the inconsistency, the subtle distance from yourself. None of it was accidental. It was the pattern showing itself early, before you had the distance to see it without emotional involvement. And this is where your power returns. Not in fixing it, not in explaining it, not in waiting for it to become something else, but in recognizing that you are allowed to leave something that does not feel right, even if it looks right from the outside. Because the beginning always reveals the ending if you are willing to see it without filters. You do not need to stay long enough to be hurt deeply in order to validate your decision. You do not need to collect more evidence to justify what you already feel. The clarity you are looking for has been there from the start. The real shift happens when you stop asking if it could work and start asking what it is costing you to stay. And if the cost is your peace, your identity, your sense of self, then the answer is no longer complicated. It is already decided. So the next time something feels intense too quickly, you will not call it destiny. You will slow down and observe. When words and actions do not match, you will not rush to explain it. You will step back and see the pattern. When you feel the need to prove yourself, you will not try harder. You will question why that need exists. When subtle comments make you doubt your world, you will not shrink it to fit the relationship. You will protect it. And when you notice yourself changing, becoming more careful than free, you will not ignore it. You will listen. This is not about becoming guarded. It is about becoming aware. Because the right connection does not require you to decode it. It does not confuse you, test you, or isolate you. It meets you with clarity, consistency, and space to remain who you are. You do not need to fear relationships. You need to trust your perception inside them. The beginning always shows more than you think. The difference is whether you are willing to see it before you are too involved to leave. And if you ever find yourself asking if you should run, pay attention to that question. It is not coming from nowhere. It is coming from the part of you that already knows the answer, Pay attention to what happens after you see it clearly. This is where most people go back. Not because the signs disappeared, but because the emotional pull is still there. You remember how it felt in the beginning. You focus on the good moments. You tell yourself that maybe it can go back to that. And that hope becomes stronger than the clarity you just gained. This is the final trap, because what you were trying to return to was never stable. It was the hook that got you attached, and every time you go back, you are not starting over. You are continuing from a place where you already know how it affects you. That is why it feels harder to leave the second time, the third time. Not because it became better, but because you became more emotionally invested. So this is the decision point. You either trust what you see now, or you wait until the pattern repeats enough times to break you into certainty. And you do not need to go that far. Walking away early is not losing something good. It is refusing to lose yourself slowly. Because once you see the pattern, your responsibility is no longer to understand it. It is to decide what you are going to do with that awareness. From this point forward, the only thing that matters is what you choose to do with what you now see. Because awareness without action turns into self-betrayal. You can no longer say you did not know. You can no longer pretend it is just a phase, just a misunderstanding, just something that will fix itself. The pattern has already shown you enough. The question is whether you will honor that or ignore it one more time. And this is where your self-respect is tested. Not when everything is easy, not when the connection feels good, but exactly here, in the moment where you have clarity and still feel the pull to stay. That tension you feel is not confusion anymore. It is the space between what you know and what you're used to. If you choose to stay, know that you are choosing the pattern, not the potential. You are choosing everything that comes with it. The confusion, the effort, the slow distance from yourself. If you choose to leave, you are not rejecting him. You are choosing yourself, and that choice will not feel comfortable at first. It will feel unfamiliar, but unfamiliar is not wrong. It is just new. Because peace often feels strange when you are used to intensity. And the moment you stop chasing what drains you, you create space for something that does not require you to lose who you are to keep it. Now, there is one last thing you need to understand, because this is what keeps people stuck longer than they should be. You might still feel something for him, and that does not mean you are wrong about what you saw. This is where many people confuse emotion with truth. You think that because you feel attached, because you still care, because part of you still wants it to work, maybe you misjudged the situation. Maybe you should give it another chance. Maybe you are being too strict. But emotions do not erase patterns. You can feel connected to someone and still recognize that being with them is not good for you. You can care and still choose distance. You can miss what you had in the beginning and still understand that it was not sustainable. The feeling is real. But it is not a reason to stay. Because what you are attached to is not only who he is, it is also how he made you feel in the beginning. And that version, the one that felt easy and certain, is what your mind keeps trying to get back. But you are not going back. You are moving forward with more awareness. And sometimes, the strongest decision you can make is choosing what is right over what still feels good. So from now on, the standard changes. You stop asking if someone likes you enough and start asking if you feel safe being yourself around them. You stop being impressed by intensity and start paying attention to consistency. You stop chasing clarity from the other person and start trusting the clarity you feel inside. Because the truth is, you always knew. Not in a loud, obvious way, but in those small moments you almost ignored. The hesitation, the doubt, the feeling that something did not fully align. That was not insecurity. That was awareness trying to reach you before you got too involved. And now you know what happens when you ignore it. So the next time you feel that early discomfort, you will not explain it away. You will not wait for it to become something bigger. You will recognize it for what it is: information. Because the beginning never lies. It only gets harder to see once emotions take over. And if you learn to listen early, you will not need to run later. At the end of everything, it comes down to one simple truth. You do not lose the right person by leaving early. You only lose yourself by staying too long. What is meant for you will not require confusion to keep you there. It will not ask you to question your worth, to adjust your identity, or to silence what you feel just to maintain it. Real connection does not create chaos in your mind. It creates clarity. So, if something inside you is telling you to step back, to slow down, or even to walk away, listen to that. Not everything that feels intense is right, and not everything that feels good at the beginning is meant to last. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is leave before it breaks you. And if this made you reflect in any way, do not ignore that feeling. Pay attention to it. Because that awareness might be exactly what protects you from repeating something you already felt was not right. Now tell me, have you ever ignored a sign like this in the beginning?